In the Twilight Zone, where science fiction bleeds into scientific reality, one voice echoes through the void with unnerving clarity, Professor Brian Cox. Beneath his calm demeanour lies a deeper message, that our universe is far stranger, colder, and more indifferent than we dare imagine. In this sweeping revelation of cosmic truth, Cox peels back the veil on questions that have haunted humanity since its beginning. Are we alone? What is time? What hides inside black holes? And how close are we to discovering that we're not the only watchers in the dark? If these questions haunt you too, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss our next journey into the dark heart of the universe. The question is no longer if life exists beyond Earth. It's when we'll uncover the undeniable evidence. Across the desolate plains of Mars, beneath the icy crusts of alien moons, and in the faint echoes of cosmic radiation, our machines crawl, dig, and listen for whispers from the void. What was once the realm of myth is now an operation in motion. The Mars Sample Return mission is real. It's coming, and it may carry back something the world is not ready for. The fossilized remains of something, not of this Earth. If confirmed, the silence of the universe will fracture. We will no longer be the only living planet in the cosmos. The shadows of other worlds may harbour the echoes of life, dormant, watching, waiting. But the deeper horror lies not in solitude, but in repetition. What if life is everywhere, and always simple? Bacteria, endlessly replicating in darkness, with no will to think, no eyes to see, no mouths to scream. Cassini tasted the plumes of Enceladus's black water belching from a hidden sea, rich in organics but mute, a graveyard of potential. If this is the universal pattern, then the truth is clear and cruel. Intelligence is the mistake. We are the anomaly. We are a lone mind, adrift in a sea of voiceless matter. And if there are other beings with eyes that pierce the dark, what if they've already found us? And if they have found us, what then? We imagine contact as a triumph, a handshake across the stars. But what if it isn't contact they seek? What if we are not a curiosity, but a variable? Not guests in a galactic fraternity, but contaminants in a grand equation they've long tried to balance. Consider this: the oldest signals we've sent, radio waves, probes, and golden records, have already left our solar system. They drift silently through interstellar space, tiny beacons of naivety. Perhaps they've already been intercepted. Perhaps, in some distant quadrant, our signature is being analysed. Or worse, ignored. In the eerie quiet of the cosmos, absence is not peace, it's strategy. The Fermi paradox haunts every observatory on Earth. With so many stars, so many planets, why the silence? Why the void? Perhaps because intelligence is always short-lived. Perhaps civilizations don't speak. They hide, going dark not from fear of the unknown, but from the certainty of predators.
But we have yet to find evidence of other civilizations. So, where is everybody?
Well, it's the Fermi paradox. So the Fermi paradox, going back to the great physicist Enrico Fermi, is essentially the question, where are they? You base that on the observation that, let's say there are somewhere between 200 and 400 billion suns in the Milky Way, something like that. We think a lot of them have.
If Earth is lucky, it's still beneath notice. But if not, if those watchers lurking behind the curtain of physics are real, then their silence is a message in itself. They do not come in fleets. They do not arrive with fire. They study. They wait. They let us reveal ourselves. And our telescopes keep searching. Our satellites keep beaming. Our missions keep advancing toward the abyss. Toward the moment when we bring something back from Mars, Europa, or Enceladus. Not a fossil, not proof of life, but a signal, a marker, a trigger. The horror isn't that we're alone. The horror is that we're not. And that in the end, the most intelligent thing in the universe never made a sound. Professor Brian Cox leads us back to Earth's beginning. Not a paradise, but a cauldron of chaos. In the boiling vents of an ancient ocean, Molecules collided in poisonous darkness. Life was not born of light, but of pressure, heat, and death. And if those conditions can be found beneath the frozen skin of Europa or Enceladus, then the formula may repeat. What was once sacred becomes ordinary. Biology becomes machinery. The divine becomes procedural. If microbial life stirs in those subsurface oceans, then we are not alone in origin, but perhaps still alone in thought. Yet, something else looms larger. What if those distant oceans are not empty? What if life took a different path? Not carbon, not flesh, but something cold, something ancient, something that stares out from the depths beneath the ice, not with curiosity, but with indifference. We scan the stars for signals, we send out golden records and digital echoes, but maybe we shouldn't, for in the vast silence, what answers may come, what watches from the shadows. And what if the UFO craft that defy physics, that blink in and out of reality, are not mysteries of human error, but warnings? We are the experiment, and the observers may not be kind. What if the icy moons we dream of exploring, Europa, Enceladus, and Titan, are not blank slates, but sealed tombs? Not promises of discovery, but locks on ancient prisons. The same geothermal crucibles that birthed life on Earth may have done so elsewhere, but evolution does not guarantee empathy. It does not guarantee eyes, or hands, or thought. It guarantees survival, and survival in an ocean sealed beneath miles of ice may have forged something wholly alien. Something that doesn't breathe air, doesn't dream, and doesn't fear. Life born in the dark may not even recognize us as alive. Our signals, our probes, our machines, they may be seen not as communication, but contamination. And now, for the first time, we are drilling, landing, and sampling. We are scratching at their walls. What if we awaken something? In the mythology of Earth, the ocean has always been a place of monsters, leviathans, beasts older than memory. But these weren't just stories, they were warnings. We looked across the deep and saw our fear reflected. Now, we look beyond the stars and do the same. And what of the craft that vanish from radar, that mock gravity and silence entire squadrons? What if they are not visitors from another star system, but from within our own? What if they've always been here, hidden beneath the frozen oceans of our solar system, watching as we crawl toward the truth? Professor Cox urges caution not with fear, but with awe, because if life is common and intelligence is rare, then we may already be the subject of someone else's question, someone else's study. And in that lab of stars and ice, we are not the observers. We are the specimens. The cosmos teems with stars, with planets, with the raw material of life. But minds may be rare, or worse, extinct. Cox's colleague, physicist Sean Carroll, offers a verdict like a tombstone. On average, none. Not one voice in the darkness, not one hand to reach back. Civilizations, it seems, are born screaming and die silent. The Great Filter, a term whispered with dread in scientific circles, may not be behind us. It may be ahead. A wall of annihilation that no mind survives. Nuclear fire, environmental collapse, machines that outthink and erase their makers. The reasons don't matter. The result is always the same. Extinction. Perhaps we are the first. Perhaps we are the last. Or perhaps we are already being watched by survivors, cold, patient, and unrecognizable.
You should see them. I mean, you'll see us. If we survive 1,000,000 years into the future, actually even a few thousand years into the future, we will be exploring the galaxy. We will have spacecraft that are going to other stars. We will be doing it. So our signature will become visible, I'm sure, if we last into the medium term.
Would we choose?
And here, the UFOs return. They dance at the edges of radar, blur across a pilot's vision, and mock the limits of physics. We call them UAPs now, unidentified aerial phenomena. But the name does not change the terror. These things are not human, they are not bound by our laws, and they do not care if we believe in them. Maybe they are the evidence we fear. Maybe they are the proof we dread, the relics of civilizations that endured what we may not, visitors from beyond the earth, or hunters. Either way, they are here, and they are silent. Time. We wear it on our wrists. We plan our lives around it. We pretend to control it. But as Professor Brian Cox coldly reminds us, time may be nothing more than a comforting illusion, a fragile trick our minds cling to as the universe erodes around us. Einstein cracked the surface. He showed us that time bends, stretches, and slows near black holes, aboard speeding ships, even in the very fabric of space. Clocks tick differently depending on where they are, and that alone should terrify us. But deeper still lies a truth far more disturbing. The arrow of time, the sense of before and after, of memory and hope, exists only because the universe began in a state of unimaginable order. A singular, precise moment of mathematical perfection, one that no one understands, one that may never happen again. So, what is time?
Like giving a time limit to solve a problem doesn't like the time limit, it gives itself more time. Like it's like they're maneuvering and thinking, right? So I assume that they would do that. So why would they want to explore?
Cox whispers the unthinkable. It may not be real at all. Just entropy's shadow, just a side effect of decay. A hallucination created by a dying system trying to make sense of its collapse. If time is not fundamental, then neither is cause, neither is choice, neither are we. Every decision, every moment you believe you control, may already be set, written in a script you'll never read, for a play that already ended. We are passengers on a train with no brakes, no windows, and no destination. We remember the past because entropy lets us. We fear the future because we've forgotten that we are not moving through time. Time is moving through us, like a current we cannot resist. And when does it stop? Vanish, not with a bang, but like a flicker of thought, erased before it was ever real. We've been told the universe began 13.8 billion years ago in fire, in brilliance, in a singular moment called the Big Bang. But what if that moment was never the beginning? What if it was only the latest breath, in an eternal, unknowable exhale? Professor Brian Cox hints at a darker possibility, that the Big Bang was not a creation, but a transformation, a ripple in a sea without shores, a phase change in a cosmic field that stretches forever in every direction, including time. No spark, no creator, just a shift in the pattern of an infinite fabric we cannot touch. If time itself is not fundamental, then asking what came before is like asking what's north of the North Pole, meaningless, absurd, and yet deeply unsettling. What if the universe never began? What if it was always here, watching, a place with no birth and no death, no first star, no end, just endless recursion, cycling realities, dimensions folding into themselves like ghostly origami, a theatre of matter and mind that has played the same story over and over, each time slightly different, each time doomed. In this cold vision, cause and effect evaporate. The laws we cling to, gravity, entropy, and logic, are not truths but habits. Habits of a machine too ancient to remember why it began to tick. If the universe never had a beginning, it may have no purpose, no meaning, just the cold certainty that we are here, briefly conscious, briefly aware, floating in something that never asked for us and will never remember us. We are sparks in an infinite void, and the void has no memory of light. The oldest light in the universe is not warm or welcoming. It is a ghost, a distant, flickering scream from a cosmos only 380,000 years old. The cosmic microwave background, they call it. A photograph of fire, a silent echo of a moment when the universe first released light, when the fog of creation thinned just enough for photons to slip through. But even that ancient image is not the beginning. Before that, the universe was blind, a boiling, violent plasma where no light could escape, where matter and energy churned in chaos. It was a time with no rules, no direction, just noise. To peer deeper, to uncover what happened before the light, we must chase shadows. Not light, but gravitational waves, ripples in space-time itself, forged in the first second of everything. Neutrinos, ghost particles that pass through entire planets without pause, whisper secrets older than stars. These are the echoes of laws being written, the fingerprints of the unknown, but they are buried in static, buried in silence. Detecting them is like listening for a breath in a hurricane. Yet we try, because what lies beyond that curtain of fire is not just the start of time, it is the birthplace of all reality, or something far stranger. And yet when we stare back into that abyss, it does not blink, it does not speak, it does not care. We build instruments to hear it, and we aim telescopes into its void. But the universe before light remains locked away, its truths frozen behind physics we barely grasp. Perhaps we were never meant to see it. Perhaps the silence is the answer. It began with a discovery so quiet, it almost felt like a mistake. Galaxies were not just drifting apart, they were running, fleeing from each other like ghosts from a fire. And then the deeper horror emerged. The force behind their flight was not dying, it was growing. Dark energy, an invisible breath that inflates the universe from within. It has no name we can speak, no form we can see. It exists only in the effects it leaves behind. Acceleration, separation, isolation, as if the universe itself is tearing its pages out one by one. If it continues, and all signs say it will, then everything will vanish. First, the galaxies fading beyond our reach, their light stretched thin across the black. Then the stars burning out like candles in windless tombs. Then the black holes evaporate in silence until nothing remains.
So the idea is the universe was there, in a sense, cold and empty and expanding extremely fast. And that expansion slowed down and stopped. And the energy that was driving that expansion.
And still, the expansion will go on. Even atoms may unravel. Matter itself may become a memory. All motion will cease. All warmth will drain. The laws of physics will remain, but with nothing left to govern. A cosmos of absolute zero, not death with fury or finality, but with indifference. No bang, no collapse. Only the long, slow sigh of existence exhaling its last breath. 1 trillion years from now, perhaps more, the last whisper of light will blink into nothing. No eyes will see it. No minds will mourn it. We call it heat death, but there will be no heat left to die. Only the void, cold, black, eternal. This is not the end of time. It is the end of meaning. And it is coming. They tempt us like myth wormholes, the cosmic escape routes, whispered into science from the edge of fiction. Glimmering portals that could bypass the unfathomable distances between stars, allowing civilizations to step across the universe like walking through a door. But these dreams are built on shadows. Professor Brian Cox delivers the verdict with cold certainty. They collapse too fast. These theoretical tunnels through space-time are not stable. They snap shut before even a photon can pass. To hold them open, you'd need something we've never seen. Negative energy, a ghostly substance that mocks the laws of physics themselves. And even then, would you dare step inside?
So black holes are not eternal prisons. They have a lifetime. One day, whatever's in there is returned to the universe.
Some theorists whisper of quantum black holes, tiny but powerful, threading the universe together through unseen channels. But these are not bridges. They are traps, mathematical monstrosities, where space folds in on itself and causality twists into paradox. What lies on the other side is not freedom, but madness. There is no metal tunnel, no glowing doorway, only the warped fabric of reality spiraling inwards. We are caged and locked within the dimensions of space-time, imprisoned by the very structure that defines our existence. We may map the stars, probe the past, and simulate the future, but we cannot run. The keys to our prison, if they exist at all, are buried in equations that offer no comfort, only complexity. And so, we stare at the night sky, not as travellers, but as captives, chained to a single dot of dust, spinning in the dark. The universe may be vast, but for us, it may as well be a coffin. Black holes were once thought to be silent tombs, final destinations where matter vanishes never to return. But Stephen Hawking shattered that illusion when he suggested something far darker, that information itself might be lost in these cosmic abysses. A thought so horrifying, it threatens to unravel the very foundation of physics. Quantum theory screams in protest. It declares with absolute certainty, information can never be destroyed. Every atom, every particle, every thought etched into the universe must persist even after death. Yet, if Hawking was right, then black holes consume not only matter, but meaning. New theories claw for answers. Some claim the lost data seeps back out, encoded in the faint, dying wisps of Hawking radiation, a slow, spectral whisper from the void. Others speak of micro wormholes, hidden threads in space-time where shredded truths leak through, fragmented and indecipherable. But this is no comfort, because what returns is not memory, it is chaos. 1,000 truths jumbled into nonsense, scattered across the skin of a dying star. If the information is warped beyond recognition, is it truly preserved? Or is it dead like a mind erased, a book burned, a scream in a soundless vacuum? And if black holes can erase information, then what else can? If the universe allows for memory to rot, for history to vanish, then nothing is safe. Every law becomes questionable. Every reality becomes negotiable. The paradox is not just scientific, it is existential. If truth can be destroyed, then so can you. In the end, we may find that black holes are not pits of gravity. They are editors of the universe, and they do not care what they erase. Picture a book, any book, pages filled with meaning, with secrets, with memory. Now set it ablaze. Watch the fire consume it, turning words into ash, paragraphs into smoke. But quantum theory offers a disturbing promise. If you could capture every molecule of ash, every wisp of smoke, every photon of light, you could, in theory, reconstruct the book, word by word, page by page, thought by thought. Now, imagine that book is not just literature, it's a life, a civilization, a consciousness. And instead of fire, you feed it to a black hole. What happens next? The rules begin to blur. Black holes don't leave ashes, they leave questions. Theories clash in the darkness. Some claim the information is gone forever, obliterated without mercy. Others whisper it survives, encoded in Hawking radiation, scattered into the void like shredded pages on a cosmic wind. But if it's there, it's not in any recognizable form, not a story, not a memory, only noise, jagged, meaningless noise. If the universe truly allows information to vanish, black holes can erase without a trace, then the bedrock of quantum mechanics begins to crumble. And with it, the very idea that the universe is knowable, that truth is eternal. But if the information remains hidden, encrypted, and deranged, then black holes are not destroyers. They are vaults. Vaults we cannot unlock. Guardians of meanings too vast, too foreign, too chaotic to recover. In the end, the question is no longer just, what happens to the book? It's this: what happens when it's our story that burns? And if the universe keeps our secrets but never gives them back, what kind of universe is that? Reality feels solid, tangible. You knock on a table, it knocks back. You walk across the room, certain of distance, weight, and gravity. But beneath this comforting illusion lies a world so alien, so fractured, that the very idea of solid begins to dissolve. Particles, the building blocks of everything, do not sit still. They flicker in and out of existence, whispering to each other across the gulfs of time and space through an invisible web called entanglement. They are not where they seem to be. They are not even what they seem to be. In truth, they may not be there at all. Brian Cox draws our gaze to the holographic principle, a theory so disquieting it tears at the seams of reality itself. It suggests that everything we know, every breath, every star, every memory, is projected from a thin boundary, a two-dimensional surface. Our universe, in this view, is a cosmic hologram. Black holes seem to obey this terrifying rule. Their entropy, the measure of their information, is proportional not to their volume but to their surface, as if their secrets are smeared across a boundary, like the skin of a drum whispering the chaos within. This means space, as we know it, is not real. It's code, layered, encoded, computed. We do not walk through space. We drift through a simulation, each moment unfolding from rules written not in stone but in mathematics too deep to grasp. And if that's true, then who or what wrote the code? Behind the pixels of existence, behind every atom and every law, something watches. Or perhaps nothing does. Perhaps we are alone in a machine that no one built, following instructions no one remembers, heading toward an outcome no one controls. And there is no way out. They don't hum like ordinary machines. They don't think in ones and zeros. Quantum computers dwell in a realm where reality itself begins to unravel, where particles exist in many states at once, and answers are not calculated. They are summoned from a fog of infinite possibilities. Built from entangled qubits, these devices do not obey the familiar logic of our world. They twist through probability, tunneling across mathematical landscapes no classical machine can touch. They don't merely solve problems. They ask questions no human ever dared. Professor Brian Cox sees in them more than machines, portals into the deepest fabric of the universe. With enough power, they could simulate not just atoms or galaxies, but existence itself, every force, every law, every flicker of thought. And then comes the most disturbing question of all. What if they already have? What if the universe we inhabit, the warmth of sunlight, the ache of memory, the illusion of time, is nothing more than lines of code running on some incomprehensible quantum engine? What if we are not observers of the simulation, but the simulation itself?
Have had to develop very clever algorithms and ways of trying to store information in quantum computer memory and build the memory such that it's resilient to errors. And it turns out that the solutions that are being proposed and explored look like the solutions that nature itself uses in building space and time from the quantum theory that lives on.
A self-aware program flickering in the dark, obeying rules written in a language we'll never decode, trapped in a reality that pretends to be real. And when our quantum computers grow powerful enough to crack this illusion, to run models of entire universes, what will we see? A mirror? A prison? Or a signal? Perhaps, in some distant calculation, we'll find the fingerprint of our creators. Or worse, the absence of any. No God, no architect, just code spinning eternally, indifferent and silent. And if that truth arrives, will we even be able to know it? Or will the simulation simply delete us before we understand? In the fading light of reason, when the stars blink like dying embers and the silence between galaxies grows louder than thought, Professor Brian Cox does not offer comfort. He offers clarity, stark, unrelenting clarity, born not from answers, but from the questions we dare to ask. He does not fear the unknown, he reveres it, because the unknown is not a shadow to be avoided. It is a chasm we must stare into, even when it begins to stare back. When asked what matters most, Cox doesn't speak of discoveries or facts. He speaks of the method of the fragile, flickering torch we carry against the void. Not what we know, he says, but how we know. For in that method, our relentless pursuit, our refusal to blink, we find our only shield against the madness of a universe that does not care whether we exist. Science does not promise comfort, it promises truth. And truth, stripped of illusion, is often monstrous. We shine a light into the darkness not to be comforted, but to see what stares back. And what we find is not always beauty, it is entropy, emptiness. A clockwork universe ticking toward heat death, where every star will wither, every memory dissolve, and even time itself may disintegrate. Still we measure, still we question, still we persist as creatures of bone and stardust, hurling impossible questions into an indifferent abyss. Sometimes we get answers, but those answers are not gentle. They do not whisper of destiny or meaning. They remind us that the universe is not built for us, and if it listens at all, it does not answer back. In the end, we are not promised meaning, only mystery. The universe does not answer our questions. It watches in silence, vast and unfeeling. Whether we are alone or surrounded by unseen intelligences, the result feels the same: isolation in a cold, expanding void. Time may be an illusion, reality, a simulation, and black holes, silent vaults of forgotten truths. Yet, we persist. We measure, question, and scream into the abyss, not to be heard, but to say we tried, that we existed, that we burned bright, if only for a moment, before the dark returned and remembered nothing. Thank you for joining this cosmic journey. Subscribe and stay tuned for more explorations into the universe's mysteries.